What's up, adventurers? I'm Alexandra, and I run a traveling adventure blog called The Bucket List Mermaid. Yes, I actually dress up like a mermaid. Go check it out, it's a thing. This week we are going to be talking about an extreme one, which is a Via Ferrata, more specifically, a Via Ferrata in Ouray. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ouray is a little tiny mountain town that is nestled right in the heart of the San Juan Mountains, obviously in Colorado, and it offers some jaw-dropping canyon views and some epic bucket list experiences. It is truly called the Switzerland of America for a reason. And again, we're going to be focusing today on the Via Ferrata. Now, I know this firsthand because I did it myself, and let me tell you, this was an epic experience. So in this guide, we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about everything you need to know, from choosing the right gear, to the right route, to the safety tips, to my experience with climbing this Via Ferrata. So if you're ready to tackle this bucket list worthy adventure, let's dive in. So before we dive in to specifically the Ouray Via Ferrata, let's talk about what a Via Ferrata actually is. So it actually is Italian for Iron Path, and it originated in the Italian Alps during World War I. The soldiers basically used these metal rungs and cables to traverse step all these rocky terrain. Now today, Via Ferratas are a very popular way for adventurers to experience the thrill of rock climbing without needing all the extensive technical skills or ropes. This is great for me because, side tangent, I'm not sure I'm a rock climber. I will try quite literally everything else except rock climbing. I'm not sure. Via Ferratas? Let's go. Now, while Via Ferratas are common in Europe, they are still relatively rare in the US, which makes this so special because it's actually designed in the same way as its European companion. Now, if you want the technical specifics, it is basically a horizontal tension cables, which are Italian style, diagonal and vertical J-loop cables, which are French style, and then 3-wire and 4-wire aerial cable bridges, steel climbing rungs, foot pedals, and natural rock climbing holds. Do you have any idea what those are? Because I don't. And also, in Ouray, it is free. So one of the things that we are going to be talking about is the two routes that are offered in the Ouray Via Ferrata, and that is the Upstream route and the Downstream route. So the Downstream route, it is a 4B Italian VF rating system. It is one direction. It starts at the ice park entrance and then follows the entire river downstream. It has iron rungs, bridges, and scenic canyons without the extreme exposure. This is perfect for first-timers, maybe beginner climbers, and just those looking for a fun and non-intimidating introduction into Via Ferrata. Now, the Upstream route is a little bit harder. It's a 4.5B Italian VF rating system. It climbs against the flow of the river, and this does add an extra challenge. There are less iron rungs, which are little handholds, and more natural rock formations that you do have to climb on. So this is better for people with some climbing experience, maybe some more thrill seekers, and just people looking for a bigger challenge. Now, I have to warn you, me and 3 friends did this for my best friend's birthday, and we did the Downstream route. Now, I had climbed a Via Ferrata before. I actually went in Peru up to a sky lodge, which, I'm gonna have to do an entire episode on that because that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. However, I digress. I've done a Via Ferrata before, and then we had an avid climber and then 2 beginners. And I will say that it was still more challenging than I thought it would be. So just because I say that the Downstream route is more friendly, beginner friendly, that does not mean that it's like a walk in the park. You still will be challenged quite a fair amount, which I love. Now let's get to the fun part. What should you expect? What is it actually like to climb the Ouray Via Ferrata? Basically, ladders, iron rungs, suspension bridges, exposed cliff traverses. So amazing. So the Downstream route, let's just talk about what it was like. It took us like 4.5 hours. I think the average is like 3 to 6 hours. This just depends on crowds, and also because less experienced climbers do this, so it might just be a little bit slower. Again, better for first-timers, families. There's iron rungs, ladders, a suspension bridge. I actually walked on like a rope bridge, and then right at the end there was another. It was like a ladder over an entire thing. There was a waterfall. Like, it was so cool. You are clipped in the entire time, but some sections do feel a little airier than others. Definitely makes you clench the butt cheeks a little bit in some spots, I will not lie. It has 4,000 linear feet of anchored cable, 2 technical exits, 1 35-foot long cable wire bridge, 1 ascending sky ladder, and then if you don't want to do that sky ladder at the end, you can also do a sky climb. That's actually rated via 5. So if you want the extra challenge at the end, you're loving it, you can go over that. Personally, I just wanted to do the ladder just because that looked more fun, and I had to go down a lot, and we've already established that going down down was not my favorite. I think the most thrilling part was the long horizontal traverses where you're just like literally dangling above the river with nothing but iron rungs beneath your feet. So the upstream route, 3 to 4 hours, does move against the flow. They have this helical sky ladder, and this is like the crown jewel of this route. The photos are crazy. It's like a vertical 60-foot ladder that's just suspended above the river, and it's where you'll get your most epic photos. It also has the Leap of Faith, which is the narrowest portion of the gorge, and it's followed by a steep climb to the canyon rim. There's 5,000 linear feet of anchored cable on this one, a suspension bridge, 3-wire cable bridge entrance, and a 60-foot helical ladder, as we were talking about. The most thrilling part, definitely the ladder. It's like climbing straight up suspended in midair with the river below. It's truly an adrenaline rush you will never forget, trust me. So which route should you choose? If you are new to a Via Ferrata or you are feeling unsure, Downstream is going to be your best bet. It's exciting, but it's less committing, and it's also less physically demanding. If you are comfortable with heights, maybe you are a climber, want to level up, then the North Stream is for you. But I promise, whichever route you choose, it's gonna be great. So let's talk about who can do a Via Ferrata, because we want to be honest here. We want to be honest with ourselves. It is designed to be accessible, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody. So is it beginner friendly? Yes, I would say that it is beginner friendly, especially the Downstream route. As I said, it was still a little tricky. I personally preferred going up to down. I could go up all day. That's just like climbing a ladder, but something about going down on this Via Ferrata, I don't know, it just kind of like made my heart skip a beat. Loved it, absolutely loved it. However, it was a little intense at some points, for sure, and I wasn't the only one. My friends thought that as well. But physically fit, how strenuous is it? How fit do you have to be? You definitely don't need to be like an elite athlete, but I think you should have a decent level of fitness. For example, like there's a lot of climbing motions because you do have to pull yourself up on those metal rungs, as they're called. Or I like to say handholds, even though that's not the professional term, but I'm not a professional, so I can say handholds, but they're rungs. You also need a lot of core and grip strength, and then you also need a lot of balance and agility. We were going over these rope bridges, and we also were going over narrow ledges. It was so cool. So I'd say that if you can handle a moderate hike with some scrambling and some light climbing, then you should be good to go. But if you do struggle with upper body endurance or long periods of exertion, you might find parts of it challenging, especially on that upstream route. Also keep in mind that Ouray is high altitude. It's at about 7,800 feet. So if you are coming from sea level, you might struggle to get oxygen the same, and I would just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that when I looked, they did have some weight restrictions. As of May 6, 2023, both below and above is like you can't do it without a professional guide. Like they just need to make sure that you're okay. So if you are below or above, just make sure that you check the regulations and you make sure that everything is safe and fun. Now let's answer a question that I get asked a lot. Could you do it with a fear of heights? Yes, I think you could, and I'm definitely not going to be the person to sit here and be like, oh no, if you have a fear of heights, you shouldn't go. However, I'll just put this into a perspective of a story. There was a situation on there where on the Downstream route, so the quote unquote easy route, where I basically had to go around this rock and I had to put my feet on a little thing of rock and then go over to one of the rungs, and the rungs, or the handholds as I call them, so they have a place in the middle. So once I got to that, I had both feet on the rung and I could basically see all the way down to the river through my feet. So I think that if you're okay with heights, I think this would be fine. However, if you do get a little queasy at heights, I could see this becoming an issue for people. Is that to say that you might be able to push through and still enjoy it? Absolutely. The Downstream route does have fewer exposure points, and being clipped into safety cables also does help build your confidence for sure. However, if you do have a severe fear of heights, this is probably not the best activity for you, and I would recommend going to thebucketlistmermaid.com. Basically, I wrote an entire guide of all the bucket list things that you can do in Ouray. This is on there, but there's also a lot of other things that you can do. So if this is not for you, that's okay. And you are looking just to like take a casual stroll, I would look into the Ouray Perimeter Trail, Box Canyon, or Cascade Falls. Those are some lovely options that do not require you, dangling yourself hundreds of feet in the air. As I said, there's like suspension bridges and rope bridges and sheer rock walls with hundreds of feet below you, and it can just feel intense if you're not used to it. Now, I do have to say, the rules are the rules for a reason, and this is, although it is more secure than normal rock climbing, it can be a little dangerous. Even if you do clip in and then you fall, there's still the chance that you'll fall at least like 4 feet. And if you aren't using the right gear, it can be very, very dangerous. So if you are looking to do this, I have linked the actual official rules, and I would 100% recommend going and checking out those and reading them and memorizing them before you go, especially if you are not going with a guide. Super important. So let's talk about gear. You definitely do not want to skimp on this, because if you have the wrong gear, obviously there is some risk involved with this. You want to make sure that you are getting the best gear possible, you are renting the best gear possible, so that you can be safe on your adventure. The Ouray Via Ferrata does require specific safety gear, and you will not be allowed on the route if you don't have it. Now, brief pause while I cover my these are always subject to change. Please check the official rules. If you're purchasing your gear, just make sure that it's certified and compliant with the rules. Always check the labels and conditions of your gear beforehand, and any uncertified and improvised gear is extremely dangerous. Okay, now I'm done. If you don't own your own equipment, don't worry, you can rent it in Ouray, and we'll talk about it. So the first thing you need is an EN958 certified Via Ferrata energy absorbing system. It's basically like a climbing lanyard, but it's not, because it's designed with an energy absorbing system that reduces the impact in case of fall. It also has 2 carabiners, allowing you to stay attached at all times while moving along the cable. So just really quickly, let's talk about how this will work. But basically there's like the rungs that you climb, and then there's also, it's like a rope, like a steel rope, and it basically lines the entire course, and there's different sections in it where it's pushed into the mountain. So you have 2 carabiners, so you have 1 carabiner, and then you pull it over to the other section, and then once that's secure, you have your other carabiner and you put it to the other. So this is basically, you just go from section to section to section, and you're always strapped in each section, because you put one over, and then in case you fall, you're still attached, and then you do the other. You have to move them one at a time, not at the same time. That's dangerous. They talked about this during the briefing. It was great. So yes, you do one at a time from each section. The sections are like 4 to 6 feet. So if you were to fall, God forbid, you wouldn't die. And that's always the goal, right, with these adventures. So when we went, we used a black diamond. I will link that as well, so that you can check that out. If you are interested in buying your own gear and going on this Via Ferrata solo, which good for you. Next, an AN12277 certified harness. This is basically just a climbing harness. It's just to secure your lanyard and just keep you safe on the route. Just make sure it's in good condition and it fits snugly. And next, an EN12492 certified helmet. Loose rock is definitely a possibility, and you'll also be moving under other climbers, so wearing a climbing rated helmet is non-negotiable. Protect your head. And then next, sturdy gloves. Oh my gosh, trust me, you will want these. You'll basically be gripping metal and climbing on metal and rock surfaces for hours. Trust me, without this, your hands would be shredded. So look for climbing or Via Ferrata gloves that offer grip protection. But I personally, they recommended ones that were fingerless, especially if you're going on the uphill route, so that you can hang on and use your fingers to climb on the natural rock easier. So funny story, I actually kept my gloves because I went with a tour, like a professional guide, and I kept my gloves from the Ouray Via Ferrata, and I actually used them while ascending the half dome cables, and I actually gave them away to somebody who desperately needed gloves, like her hands were bleeding. So anyway, do the gloves, they're needed. That's everything that's required. Let's go in for recommendations. This is not required, but it will make your experience just a lot more comfortable and enjoyable while you are climbing. Number 1, traditional shoes or hiking boots. I would just avoid like running shoes or anything with a soft, slick sole. I hiked in my hiking boots, and honestly, I was fine. If you are doing the uphill, the Upstream route, they do recommend that you have the sticky rubber climbing shoes, so just keep that in mind. But I did the downhill with normal hiking boots with really good traction and was totally fine. Next, this is the mountains. The weather can shift so crazy. The mornings might be chilly, the midday sun can make you super sweaty, and the canyon can also get breezy. So just do some moisture wicking base layers, maybe a lightweight windbreaker, and you should be fine. Now next, you will be out there for a while, so just maybe bring like a very small hydration pack or a backpack with some water and snacks and any essentials. Just make sure to keep it light. We did too much, and when we met our guide, he was like, that is way too much. We all brought like camelbacks and snacks, and we were like, oh, it's fine, we don't care, and we did it anyway, and we were fine. But I think I could have packed a little lighter, but I really enjoyed my GoPro and my beef jerky and my full camelback. I was not dehydrated on this. It was great. So where can you rent gear in Ouray? Don't worry, there are several spots, and these are also good spots to find professional tours if you do want them. But the Ouray Mountain Sports, this is like high quality gear. San Juan Mountain Guides, if you're going with a guide, they'll provide all the necessary equipment. Another one is Base Camp Ouray. So this is another solid option for gear rentals. And I would make sure to do this in advance, especially if it's during peak season, just because it can get crowded. And also pay attention, because just because you're renting gear does not mean that you're going on a professional tour. Renting gear is just renting gear, and then you go solo. We rented gear and did a professional tour, so just make sure you know what you're paying for. Now, how we got there, it was a little weird. We had to like go up the Camp Bird Road, which is County Road 361, which is basically like the same way to the $1 Million Highway, but we kind of just found parking like on the side of the road. I think you probably could park at the ice park and that would be better, but you know, that's where they told us to park. So there it is. They also have like a little dirt parking lot that I saw some RVs in there. So you could also park there. But if you are going with a professional guide, just make sure that you are meeting at the right place and that they will take you to the sign, because I definitely couldn't have found the sign. We actually kind of hiked a little bit to get to the entrance point to climb the Via Ferrata. So good luck finding that if you're solo. Now, speaking of that, do you need a guide or can you go solo? The good news, you can do it either way. And if you do go solo, it's free. How cool. However, it depends on your experience, comfort level, and what kind of adventure you're looking for. I know you're like, oh, it's free, so I'll just go solo. But you need to be honest with yourself and think, yes, it might be free, but is it safe? What is my climbing experience? So I would encourage you to do some soul searching and think if this is right for you, especially if you haven't done it before. I would go solo if you are comfortable with heights and you know the basic climbing movements, you have all the required gear and you know how to use it, you're comfortable, and you're taking the downstream route, which is generally easier to navigate. Or I would hire a guide if you're a first timer, you want expert instruction, you may be taking the upstream route, or you're not familiar with the VF attachment systems, or you just want a stress-free experience with provided gear and expert safety tips. As I said, we did this for my friend's birthday. We didn't want to do anything. We wanted everything done for us. And, you know, go lazy travelers. I'm a total lazy adventurer. So no shame in that at all. I just wanted them to be like, put your foot here. And I was like, thank you. Love that for me. Now, with my experience, it was a little expensive. I know, but we paid around $170 per person. I did enjoy the peace of mind hiring a professional guide. We got gear, we got instructions, and we were also private. Like there was nobody else in the group with us, which was really cool. And he also took a bunch of photos, which turned out really well. So the best time of year, May to October, is when generally, obviously it's weather dependent, but it's open seasonally, just because this actually turns into, it's very good for ice climbing in the winter. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it is the ice capital of the world. Man, Ouray's just got it going on. I would maybe recommend considering going in late spring or early fall, just because there's fewer crowds, there's cooler temperatures, and it's prime conditions. If you do go in the summer, just expect it to be hot and very sweaty. I went climbing on the Ouray Via Ferrata in early September. We did have a few groups pass us. Some of them were solo, and I was moderately sweaty. The best time of day, in the morning. Go in the morning. Cooler temperatures, fewer climbers, perfect lighting for photos. Then the afternoon can be busier, especially on weekends, but it's still a great time to go. However, our guide said that in the summer, like if you go like right at 8 a.m., there's still just like a line of people waiting to do this. So just be careful with the crowds and the time that you were choosing to check this off your bucket list. Now, safety tips, common mistakes to avoid here. Number one, always stay clipped in. Your lanyard should always be attached to your cable. And I know you're like, well, obviously, Alex, obviously you should always be attached. But you'd be surprised, like once you start getting used to this climbing system, how you kind of start getting lazy and you start like moving the second one before the first one is truly secure. And it's easier to do than you think. So just always make sure that you have at least one lanyard attached to the cable. And check your gear before starting. Ensure that your harness is snug, the carabiners are locked properly, and you know how to do it. You know how to lock it. Like for us, I had to like push a little thing down in order order to get it off onto it. So just make sure that you know your gear, you know? And again, just move one carabiner at a time when transitioning. Just never unclip 2 carabiners at once. Just keeps you safe at all times. And maintain 3 points of contact. Always have at least 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand secured on either a rung, a cable, a rock, etc. Next, give climbers space. Keep at least 1 full section between the cable anchors. So remember we were talking about the little sections and they're anchored into the mountain. So just make sure that you're being respectful to other people, especially if it is crowded. I did have one gentleman, because have you ever just been like tailgated in a car and it just really, really makes you angry? But this is like 10 times that feeling, because he was just right there and he just wasn't giving me enough space, and I had to be like, sir, can you please? I'm going as fast as I can and I'm trying to be respectful to my person in front of me. You being right here like on the same section at me is so stressful. So anyway, I digress. Just give people space. And wear a helmet at all times. Even if you feel stable, just wear it. So some common beginner mistakes and how to avoid them. Number 1, rushing through sections. This is not a race and you might feel pressured by that gentleman behind you. Doesn't matter. Move smoothly, carefully, just avoid missteps, and especially on like exposed area like those suspension bridges. Number 2, over gripping and fatiguing too fast. If your arms are burning and you're gripping too tight, use your legs to push yourself up rather than solely relying on your upper body. My upper body strength sucks, so I naturally just like compensate with my lower body. Next, wearing the wrong shoes like tennis shoes, regular sneakers. Slippery soles is a disaster here, so you need to wear climbing shoes, grippy hiking boots for the best traction. Now next, forgetting to hydrate. You might not feel thirsty, but altitude plus effort equals dehydration. So just bring a small water bottle or a hydration vest. Again, I went a little overboard with the water, but I was very hydrated during my climb. And next, panicking if you get stuck. Everybody has that moment. Don't worry. If you freeze, here's what you should do. Step 1, take a deep breath. You're securely clipped in. You will not fall. Step 2, focus on small movements. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I have to finish this whole route, just move 1 foot and 1 hand at a time. That's all you need to do. Step 3, rest if you need to. Your lanyard will catch you. Lean back into your harness and just take a second to regroup. With the harnesses that we actually had a separate carabiner that was specifically used for resting. So you would just clip that into a metal rung and you would just literally lean back like a seat. Now step 4, just ask help if you need it. Fellow climbers, guides can provide advice, encouragement, or assistance if needed. This is where that professional guide comes in handy. And they can also tell you how to get down tricky areas. Like there was one where I was like, oh, I think I should go this way. And he was like, nope, that's not the way. So ask if you need help. There's also several bailout points along the route, which is basically like if you just freak out and you're like, not for me, you can definitely use those. And no shame. Go to that other Via Ferrata bucket list that I have on my website and find another thing that you can do. No shame. So the question we've all been waiting for, is this worth your bucket list? Absolutely. If you're craving an epic high adrenaline adventure in one of Colorado's most stunning mountain towns, then the Ouray Via Ferrata is an absolute must-do. And what I like about it is you can be a seasoned climber or you can be a first timer, but it's a really good way to push your limits in a safe but thrilling way. Well, safe if you do follow all the rules, you know. It just delivers an unforgettable experience. My personal take, having done the Ouray Via Ferrata myself, I can confidently say that it is very exciting, very accessible, very well designed. Actually, I looked on there, it was like designed by professional climbers and engineers. It's really cool. How like all the safety features of it. It's cool. The scenery, unreal. The exposure, it's like just enough to make your heart race in the best way. And the challenge is totally manageable, even for beginners if you're prepared. So if you're on the fence about trying it, go for it. I mean, nothing beats that feeling of conquering a cliffside route and just soaking up all those views from above. So my final thoughts on the Ouray Via Ferrata. This is one of the coolest adventure experiences in Colorado, hands down. It's challenging, it's rewarding, it's an absolute blast, whether you go with a solo or a guide. You know, if you just ever wanted to feel like a mountain goat, this is your chance. So grab your gear, take a deep breath, get ready for an unforgettable adventure, and if you do this, I would love to see your photos because I love cheering on other people checking off their adventure bucket list. I'm a fan of that. So share them with me. I'm on social media at The Bucket List Mermaid, or you can just head to my website, www.thebucketlistmermaid.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we really hope you enjoyed this. Start climbing. Thanks for listening, and adventure on.